Well, folks, there I go. I already blew it. Let's talk about it. Folks, if you're like me, you're a parent, especially if you're a parent, you screwed up sometimes. We got to talk
Just
about that today.
just sometimes. It's like it's like every day.
Every day, something goes awry. And here's what we're talking about. Last week, we were talking about our kids having a desire or expressing a desire to be professional athletes. And you heard me say this. To be honest, it wasn't like I didn't feel like proud dad. Now, the context of that conversation was basically that we're not going to get overly excited when our young kids say they want to be professional athletes because it's a long road and a lot can change in their lives. But there's a lot more to unpack here. Before we do that, Adam, do you have anything you want to say, or should I just launch right in here?
You and I are on a similar page here where our initial reactions aren't just about how hard it is to make it as a pro athlete or what does the path forward look like. It's about us too and unpacking our own stuff. So that's what we're getting into a little bit here is
Mm-hmm.
when our stuff seeps onto the children.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so specifically, to give some context here, so I was recently listening to a podcast, and what came up in that was a parenting podcast. Have you? What came up in that is this mindset of your kids sometimes, it could be just a day, but sometimes it goes for stretches, weeks or months at a time, where you're just pulling your hair out. And you're just like, is this person ever going to learn to be respectful, kind, show just basic human, respect and dignity? And my son has a tendency to, he gets wound up and he wants to badger and pester, and sometimes I get in this mode where, like, ultimately I'm confident in his ability to be a successful human in the future, but I get exasperated and I get frustrated, and I'm like, how is he ever going to be successful if he can't be a basic decent human being at these intervals? And be clear, it's not like he's this way all the time, but he goes in stretches and it just gets like you just pull your hair out. It's so frustrating. And one of the things I noticed, and it caught me after we recorded last week, was that I carry that into his activities. Like, how, if he can't be disciplined and he can't be to do basic everyday things, how in the world is he ever going to do that on a baseball field? How is he ever going to be successful that way? And I get in this mentality of expecting him to fail, even though I know he's not going to be a failure of a person. I don't expect that, but that's what goes through my mind. Adam,
It's
what?
so easy. It's so easy to think of kids as like miniature adults
Mm,
and treat them that way. But even we know that the adults we spend our lives around are just like that too, many times. And why is it that we give them more grace or forgiveness or understanding sometimes than we do our own kids?
mm.
I don't know. I don't know.
One of the things we haven't talked about here is, Adam, you do have some professional education in this area. that is going to come out more and more in this show. And I don't have that professional education, so I get a lot of the um, you know, you make a mistake and then you like, it's like trial by error, that kind of education. So Adam, can you put on your like hat here and help a brother out, and then also like, do these things happen in your house or is it just only in my house?
Yeah, this is in every house. It's not just your house. It's not just my house. It happens a lot in my house too. It happens when I think about chores or I think about how the kids deal with money or homework or anything else that they're responsible for and they're trying to move toward.
Mm-hmm.
Their brains are unformed and they're doing something for the most part they've never done before. So the
Mm-hmm.
expectation of perfection is uh, is just wild that we would expect that of kids, but we do it. We do it. It just happens. So we got to give ourselves a little grace, and we're going to give our kids a little grace too. That's what we should aim for.
So you just talked about having this expectation of perfection for our kids. I mean, first of all, even as thinking about adults, like that's unrealistic expectation, especially for kids. You mentioned they're really doing most of this for the first time. So let's give some insights here into um, some thoughts on, you're watching a meltdown, you're watching like maybe they quote unquote failed, they're not listening, you've asked them to do something 800 times, you've asked them to stop badgering their sister for the 500 millionth time. Like, what what needs to go through the brain of the adult here, um, to not absolutely lose their, you know, business?
In my experience as a parent as well as a professional, something I was going to ask you about too is, so in my experience, really the place to start is it's not about me,
Yep.
both in terms of their failure is not your failure. You've not failed them as a parent because they failed in some way. And when they're mad or badgering or whatever, it's not because of you. It's not really even that related to you and what's happening for you. So then, but what happens with that, and here's my question for you,
Mm-hmm.
is typically something gets activated inside of us, a past feeling, a hurt, a memory, a something. And
Mm-hmm.
so my question for you is, when you're talking today about the baseball, when you're talking about is he ever going to be a, functioning person, what is it that's activated for you? Is it the I'm a failure as a parent? Is it the I didn't I'm projecting my own sense of failure about something onto my own child? Like, that's where we
Mm-hmm.
need to begin, is it's not about me, but also recognize something's happening within me that I need to figure out.
Boy, that's a good question. I know part of this is going to get real here for this guy. So one of the things that I have, that I've struggled with for, I mean, most of my adult life that I can kind of really remember is sort of this. and it comes and goes. Times is better, times is not. But it's like this impending thought of like, when I think about my life, like I have a good life, wife who loves me, my kids, despite some of the things we're talking about here, my kids are fantastic. I love them. They're wonderful. Home, a job that's incredible in terms of what I want to be doing, and but stuck in there is this thing of, when am I gonna blow it? Like it's like it's like I'm kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, or I'm waiting for something to happen where I just like absolutely blow this thing and everything falls apart. And um, it's a heavy weight to carry. One, so then I spend a lot of time sort of like, some of the thing of what the questioner asks is, what does it activate? Is like, I'm one of my talents or gifts, I guess you'd say. I love just like having a checklist and just busting through that checklist, especially on the weekends. We got to get stuff done, that kind of thing. If that thing gets disrupted, I ain't a happy camper. so, so I'm just like, I don't got time to deal with. I don't want to deal with this right now. And like, can you like just stop? Like, the solution's quite easy. Just stop doing what you're doing. And so I think there's a mix of like, um, one is like, I'm in my zone and things are going well, and now you just like really messed up my little zone here, which that's the whole thing. But that's really a thing that I think sits in me, that I'm in need of kind of dealing with a bit more, and I haven't as much as I should.
So maybe some of that gets that, like, when's the other shoe gonna drop, or am I gonna blow it? Maybe gets activated a little bit in both the regards, where you got like the kids not living up to an expectation that
Mm-hmm.
you feel like, I as a dad, you know, should have instilled this at some point. But then also you've got, maybe you've got the list too, that I got to get this done,
Mm-hmm.
and if I don't, the shoe dropped a little bit maybe.
Yeah, I think so. The thing that's interesting is, I don't really have too much of a problem with like, that's their issue. Like, I don't feel like I'm like, I carry the weight of like, oh man, I mean, there are times when I feel like I really screw up as a parent, like raise my voice, or I kind of just act like a goober. Um, there are those times. Those do happen. But in general, I'm pretty good at feeling like this is his deal. Like, I didn't cause him to be like badgering his sister. That's not on me. But it's like, it's this thing for me of like, I don't want to have to be dealing with this right now. Like, I would, I want to not do that right now. And now, so I don't know. Maybe, I'm also in this spot right now where I'm like studying for a big test, and like there's some extra stressors that maybe don't, that are, so
That decrease your capacity to deal with that, some of that
yeah. So,
extraneous business.
yeah.
So there are these things that happen. There's some context there, and you talked a little bit earlier about um, your life, where you're at in your life, and we talked about this a little bit last week when we were talking about our kids wanting to be pro athletes, and that was a dream of ours when we were a kid.
Hmm.
And not only did that not work out, that we didn't come close to that,
Hmm.
becoming a professional athlete. And I wonder if we project that a little bit, because you and I played and practiced baseball
Hmm.
far more than probably our kids combined practice,
Yeah.
who are have aspirations to be professional athletes.
Hmm.
So I imagine there's probably also a sense of uh like what's realistic, like protecting them, wanting them to have some sort of success, and what what goes along with that, because that was a an unrealized dream for us in some regard.
Yeah, that's very well said. Very well said. I think another layer, like you said, is this unrealized piece of it. And not just that, but um, it's a little bit interesting because we kind of had that dream, but I think there's some kids that are like, they wake up every day like, I'm a professional baseball player, and they just eat, sleep, drink, and whatever. And we love baseball, we love sports, we worked hard, we practiced a lot, but I don't know that my mentality was like, my number one only aim in life is to be a professional athlete. And you and I went to we our parents provided us the opportunity to go to kind of like a scout college scouting camp thing. So we tried it. We did like a tryout. They provide a score, and then they do work to help you get, find a college team that wants you and go play college baseball. And we decided not to. I mean, I don't know your whole process, but I don't even know my whole process. But I decided not to do that. I think some of it was like, okay, is this realistic? Some of it was getting feedback from people who had gone and played college baseball, and that it's a very different experience in terms of what it's like to prep and play and do all the stuff. And I wasn't sure that I wanted to do that, and have that kind of thing. But then I look back on it now, and there's times when certainly I wouldn't change anything, just given my family and all that kind of stuff. Um, but I feel like, did I did I shortchange myself because I didn't even try. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna be a D1 recruit. I wasn't gonna get a scholarship to D1 school, but I didn't even try. I didn't even, you know. So that, I don't know where that plays into this whole thing, um, too. But there are times when I think um, like there's not a day goes by when I'm like, gosh, I could go for a game of baseball with some of my friends right now. That'd be fun. And like I didn't try to do that as a career. I don't know. Just thinking it.
Well, yeah, and it speaks to maybe the difference between uh, hobby and career, um,
Hmm.
and what do we enjoy versus what do we want to spend all of our sort of life working life energy toward. Those can be different things. You mentioned your process with that scouting deal that we did. um, I had been rated higher, I might have thought about it differently, but especially seeing the ratings come back, and I was like a low level community college prospect, basically.
Hmm.
Prospect's a strong word to use here. Um,
Participant.
but yeah, exactly. Um, play on the practice squad or something at a community college. Um, and that I think solidified what I already knew, that I I wasn't good enough. And as I think back to that time, the that bridge between the scouting thing and college wasn't the missed opportunity for me. The missed
Mhm.
opportunity for me was I never I didn't put in the work required at any point before that.
Mhm.
So the expectation for me to achieve some kind of higher level baseball, it was never going to be available to me because I didn't do the work.
This is a topic that knows no bounds. I mean, when you start
Cuts
talking,
deep.
it
It
cuts
cuts deep.
it cuts deep, and it touches everything in life, parenting, work, it just touches everything. We're not going to exhaust that today, and probably never. But we have fun. We enjoy talking about it. It's life. It's important. But we want to try to at least try to kind of give something that you can take home with you, that I can take home, to think about and to apply and think, just think about with my kids. Um, Adam, how would you kind of bring that together into something that is tangible, that I can work with moving forward?
What I would come back to is just taking a moment in those in that thought process, in that emotional moment. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about me. It's not about me. And look inward a little bit. What is happening right now? And then respond from a place of what's happening with my child right now and validate that. You want to be a pro baseball player. That's all you need to say.
Mm-hmm.
If he wants to continue the conversation, you continue the conversation. If he's like, yeah, okay, then we're moving on to the next topic, which may continue to be baseball, or it might be something else. But we can give ourselves permission to let that go.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam. Helpful for me.
Here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about our unrealized dream of playing professional baseball,
Mm-hmm.
and we like to do some pack ripping whenever we get together. I got Donruss 1990. These came out when we were around your son's age,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
wanting to play baseball. Hey, am I going to be on a baseball card? I'm going to rip this pack right here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk a little bit about whose career from this pack would you want to have, maybe now looking back, or as an
Mm-hmm.
8-year-old,
Who
9-year-old,
is your?
whatever
Yeah.
age,
Mm-hmm.
whose career. And I
Yeah.
love the wax pack here, old school style.
So participation opportunity for all of you out there. Pick your
Yeah.
favorite player, or who would you want to be now, looking back, whatever. Also, if there's something you want us to talk about, drop it in the comments below. We will talk about it. We prioritize y'all's topics because those are the most fun to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so here we go. Donruss 90, we had the Carl Yastrzemski puzzle piece.
Mm-hmm.
Rafael Ramirez, shortstop for the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
Marty Barrett, Andy Van Slyke, candidate there. Checklist, not a hot commodity. Don Paul,
Mm-hmm.
Craig Lefferts, Frank Williams, Bob Welch. Were pitcher heavy here
Mm-hmm.
for those hoping for a pitching career. Melito Perez. Here we go. Mark Grace, Cecilio Gante, Dave Schmidt, Julio Franco. Our batters here are pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Alvaro Espinoza, Brett Butler, and we're gonna round it out with Gary Eve and Guillermo Hernandez.
Okay. Wow.
So, who stuck out to you as a player that would have been on your list?
This is a challenge. Couple of things I'm thinking. One is career looking back, it's Mark Grace. We love watching Mark Grace play first base for the Cubs in the 90s. But from that pack, pull up that Rafael Ramirez card from the Astros. You and I played Little League, minor league for the Astros, and that
Yeah.
is exactly what our uniform looked like. And so that takes me back to just a real happy place. That right about this age, we were playing on the Astros.
Yeah.
Dad was our coach at that time, I think.
Yep. We were
Coach
wearing
pitched.
that hat.
That exact uniform is
Yep.
what we wore. Dad was hitting kids with pitches. You know, it was a time. It was a time.
Yeah.
How about you? How about you?
Okay. For me, where I'm at in my life, Julio Franco playing late into the 40s. We're,
47 or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, so as someone who's
Hmm.
in my late 20s, he's someone for me to aspire to. But as a kid, I probably would have said Van Slyke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of
Hmm.
these. Loved him and Bonds. And
Hmm.
yeah. So who of these players, drop it in the comments, who would you have wanted to be as your 8-year-old self, or maybe even today looking back?
Hmm. Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us for another fun week. We'll be back at it next week. We'll see you then.